Wow, Purple Heart. National Defense Medal. Campaign Medal Service, Vietnam. So he was a Vietnam guy. Hey, good day everyone. Well, today is what they consider Memorial Day. So I thought I'd take a little cruise today and talk about Memorial Day a little bit. Kind of close to home for me since I am a ex-Navy guy. So thought I'd take a little slow cruise, just a casual. It's really windy, so I'm just going to take my time and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, today is Memorial Day, and I think on a day like this, people don't really understand sometimes the significance of a Memorial Day and what it truly means, especially a lot of younger folks. They just consider it a day that, hey, we get, you know, a 3-day weekend, we're off Monday, we get the party down with barbecues and stuff like that, and they don't really consider the significance of a day that was actually once called Decoration Day. Some of you that follow my channel that's been around as long as I have might remember that, Decoration Day. And that's kind of what it traditionally was called, Memorial Day, by the way. And today marks the 156th Memorial Day celebration. It's really not a celebration, probably the wrong term to use. It's a remembrance. And what it signifies is those who were in the military and lost their lives sacrificing for the military. And not only military folks, they've actually considered first responders and even civilians that were lost their lives servicing our country or protecting our country. And for you folks that follow my channel that are not from the United States, a little history on Memorial Day is it kind of became more popular when Civil War happened in this country, America. You know, you've heard of the Civil War. Well, tradition has it that the folks that lost their lives in the Civil War, the loved ones, friends, family, spouses, would go to the cemetery and place flowers. And hence that's why they called it Decoration Day. And that Decoration Day was what it was pretty much called till like 1967, when they officially made it Memorial Day, I believe. In 1971 is when Memorial Day became a federal holiday. I'm gonna go to there's a cemetery down here called Rose Hill, which is a very nice cemetery, and I want to kind of show what I'm talking about here with you'll see when you get there, with all the flowers and stuff. I think it'll be kind of fitting for a ride through the cemetery today. So I hope you enjoy the video, and maybe you'll understand a little bit more about Memorial Day. So my family, I come from a family lineage of military people. My father was in the Navy. He was in the Navy right around shortly after Pearl Harbor escapades. So he was never actually in the war itself. But my father served in the Navy right shortly after Pearl Harbor and after the surrender. So he served during non-war time. My brother actually served in the Navy, and he was in Vietnam. My brother was on a destroyer, which was hit, and the ship survived, everybody survived. I don't think there was any casualties, but it took out their radar. He was off the coast of Da Nang or somewhere, and their destroyer was hit by a missile in it or something, and it took out the radar, but they were able to, you know, get away, I guess, and I think they had to go somewhere to get that repaired or whatever. I don't know the whole story. My father actually lost his hearing from the war. He would fly in airplanes, and not as a pilot, but as whatever job he did in airplanes. And back then, the inside of airplanes and the cockpit, and you know, the cabin and everything was very, very noisy, as you can imagine. So that caused, over the years, deafness in both ears. He was completely deaf in one ear, but he did wear a hearing aid in one of his ears. And so when I was growing up, you could sit there and have a conversation at the kitchen table and he would not hear a word of it. So the only way that he would hear you is if you pretty much shouted. I was fortunate. I was in the Navy for 8 years, but and that was during the global war on terror. So that was 8 years I served in the Navy, but I never saw any action. But yet I had a ribbon for it because I was actually in the service during the global war on terror, right after. And what that means, if you're not from this country, you know, when the Twin Towers were hit in New York, proceeding after that event, that was called as the global war on terror, because you had not only the United States but a lot of other countries that were basically helping out with that. So without really understanding the significance of what Memorial Day means, you know, you hear all the time, you know, from people, Happy Memorial Day, hope you enjoy a good weekend, you know, Happy Memorial Day, you know, remember. And you know, it's just kind of weird to me because I don't consider that anything about happiness. You know, it's just a term. I know people don't mean it in disrespect, but I hear it so often. I even hear it from veterans, you know, Happy Memorial Day. So it's really what it's designed for is to do, you know, to pay respects and to mourn our service members. And you could just see as I'm driving around here, all the flowers, and people are having just picnics and stuff next to the grave sites. And yeah, my father and my brother and my family were actually they're buried in a different cemetery, but that's quite a ways from me. So this one was literally right down the road, and due to time constraints, I figured I would just do the video here. And a lot of people don't know this, but on Memorial Day, you are to fly the American flag at half-mast until noon. And then when noon strikes, you raise it to full staff. So that basically represents the mourning period is from the morning until noon. And that's when, like I said, after noon it goes up. And you move past the mourning stage, you know. A lot of American flags, a lot of flowers, you know. And other countries do have their own, they might call it something different, but many countries also honor and remember ex-military. And I believe in like the UK and Canada, they call it Remembrance Day instead of Memorial Day. So, you know, America's not the only country that honors our military. Trust me, a lot of them do. They just might call it something different. My wife's family, her brother, she has two brothers that were also in the military. They were in the Army. And my nephew actually was in the Marines. So yeah, we have between our two families, a lot of military people. And I went in just because I felt that I could do my part too. I mean, since my father and my brother both were in the Navy, and I spent 8 years doing it, and it was a lot of fun because I wasn't in physical war. It's not fun where no war is fun, trust me. But I went in when right after I was actually going through the process of signing up before the towers were hit. So that was in 2001. Then I was a couple weeks away from signing the dotted line when the towers were hit. And I remember, I'm like, oh no, you know, this is not good. Something's gonna go down with this. And sure enough, it turned into something a lot bigger. And I remember I called my recruiter and I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. And it was a female, and she said, yeah, I understand if you want to, if you don't want to pursue this, you still have time to think about it. And I'm like, you know what? No, this kind of pisses me off and I want to do it even more. A couple weeks later, I basically went to the recruiter's office, and I had the commander of the base and my recruiter there, and I signed on the dotted line. And 8 years later, I finally got my honorable discharge, and I didn't want to sign up anymore because I signed up for another stint after my 4, and then it turned into 8. And then the only reason I didn't do it anymore was because it kind of got dull for me. Our naval station was kind of, I think the issue was funding. They didn't have a lot of activities for us to do, and it just became kind of dry and boring to me. So that's why I got out. I'm like, I think I'm done with this. I did get to see Hawaii. I saw Pearl Harbor. We did some training thing in Hawaii, me and 3 other guys. Shout out to Toby, Glenn, and Sam, who I went to Hawaii with, and we saw Pearl Harbor. And I'm still in contact with Sam even today. And so you meet a lot of good guys. Pearl Harbor was interesting. You could still see the bullet holes in some of the buildings and stuff in Pearl Harbor from the Japanese planes. It was pretty interesting. And of course the USS Arizona, we got to see that that ship that's still under the water there, leaking oil, by the way. But yeah, the Arizona is really a nice memorial to go to. You can go actually in this like building, and you can see it lists every service member that was on the Arizona. So we got to see that, and I actually worked on the docks in Pearl Harbor. We did that for about 2 weeks until our assignment was up. And it's funny because when you're in Hawaii, it is truly paradise, and I would love to take my family back there someday, but it's very expensive to get there. You know, when I went, it was all paid for by the government, so I'm like, yeah, I'll take that. But to go now, it's insane, especially in this day and age. So Hawaii, if you've not been to Hawaii, it is truly something else. Every day is like 85 and sunny. You talk about a nice job. If you're a weather forecaster, get a job in Hawaii. I had to laugh because I would watch the TV in the hotel room in the morning. The news came on and the weather, and it was the same every single day. You know how they have like the 10-day outlook? It was exactly the same every day. I'm like, why do you even need a weather person here in Hawaii? For that rare chance that it might have a storm come through once a year, possibly. So all the shops in Hawaii, like when you go to the retail and stuff, they didn't have doors. Everything was wide open. I think they could close them if they wanted to, but all the shops, everything in Hawaii was completely wide open because there's not a lot of bugs. I didn't see any bugs, which was interesting. And I think because of the breeze and being out in the middle of the ocean, there's not a large habitat of bugs or something. It was very bizarre. But you could see ash falling from the volcanoes and stuff. So it almost felt like sometimes just a really light snow. And you're just standing there, and here comes an ash just really like tumbling down. It's like, oh, that's interesting. So yeah, really unique out there. So anyway, shout out to anyone who has family or loved ones or that might have paid the ultimate sacrifice. You know, I want to thank you guys personally for that. Thank them. And it's just an honor to kind of served along with them, even though I'm still here. There's a chance that anyone that signs up for the military, you take that chance, and I knew that going in. I was just fortunate that I never saw active or any action, because the global war on terror was more of a, it was more of a ground thing. There was nothing in the ocean really. It was over in the desert, Iraq and stuff. So I was pretty confident that even though I signed the dotted line, that the Navy wasn't going to be too involved in it, unless you were a special, like a SEAL or something, where you had some special assignments. Just can't believe how many. I mean, it's like every single gravesite almost has been either has flowers on it or flags or both. It's amazing. So a lot of people don't know this either, but there's something called the National Moment of Remembrance. It is said that at 3:00 p.m. on Memorial Day is the time of 60 seconds of silence. So at 3:00 we will honor the National Moment of Remembrance to pay our respect. And most Americans sadly don't even know that exists, because all they see is a free day off work and a barbecue and partying. But I think partly why I want to do this video is to kind of remind people that pay respects. I mean, for crying out loud, you're free because these people sacrificed their lives to allow us to be free and allow me to ride this bike. And it's just like people take it for granted. So I think it's important for everybody to understand the significance of a Memorial Day, Private first class of the Army. Listed 1967, infantry. Wow, Purple Heart. National Defense Medal. Campaign Medal, service, Vietnam. So he was a Vietnam guy. Casualty was hostile ground action, multiple fragmentation, South Vietnam. So, Gordon T. Dalton, thank you. And there's many more. Many more, as you can see. I'm just keeping my helmet on. I feel like a dork, but that's okay. You can tell, like, the large flags, I guess, represent the ex-military. This was another Army, Vietnam, rifleman. Michael E. Smith, Walter P. Markham. These were all Vietnam. So my brother was lucky. He was off the coast of Da Nang, I think, when his destroyer was hit. But he made it out, and many did not. Let's see what time it is. $2:57. It's 3 o'clock. Let's pause for a moment to remember and honor all that served. Thank you.